Welcome to the Automate and Grow podcast, brought to you by Cloud Advisory.
Welcome to another episode of Automate and Grow. That's my radio voice in case nobody has heard it before, because I usually don't use it. But I'm here on episode 26 of Automate and Grow, and I'm here with Jonathan Smith, who was nominated by Rye, who in the previous episode from Astronomer. And he nominated you, Jonathan, because you have a really interesting startup that we're going to talk about today. But first off, I just want to thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.
And your startup is called Kai.coach. And I thought this was a really interesting approach to coaching. And so I guess first off, what can you tell us about Kai.coach? What would be important for people to know about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about our mission as a team. Our mission is to bring better coaching to more people. I have a firm belief based on my personal history and just what I see in the studies and statistics that we spend all our time in, that one of the best ways to reach any goal you have, whether it's in fitness or getting out of debt or losing weight, whatever it is to have a coach, have somebody else just dedicated to helping you. It's that weird combination of like friend, accountability partner, subject matter expert, and it plays an important role, I think, in people's journeys. But coaching as it currently exists is just really expensive. And almost all of it is by appointment. So I got to pay $300 a month to see you once a week. And whether you look in life coaching, business coaching, executive coaching, fitness coaching, personal training, whatever it is, you're going to see a model where I go to your place to meet with you, or you call me. Who wants to be called anymore? And we talk once in a week. We talk once in a week. And that's supposed to help me fix my problems. On the opposite side of that, what Kai is doing is if you sign up for Kai, you're going to have a conversation via text message every day or every other day, whatever your preferences are. But we're trying to take a more active role in people's journeys towards change. My background is in ethnography. I'm a market researcher. So
ethnography? Why do I not know what that is? Is that... I feel stupid all of a sudden.
It's the study of people and cultures, and if you're in Cincinnati like me and you're next to Procter & Gamble, it's the study of why people buy things. I don't think that's what it's supposed to mean.
Why do I not know Procter & Gamble's in Cincinnati? I'm learning so much on this podcast.
Come on, you got to come visit. Man.
I might have
Cincinnati.
to.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
I mean, you're officially the second, first of all, just not to diverge too much, but you're the second person I know in Cincinnati. And the second person I've done a podcast with, so that's amazing. I at least have
Us Cincinnati folks, we stick together, man. We really do. So my background is in market research.
Okay.
And what you learn early in the process of being in market research is that all change is behavior change.
Okay.
Whatever you're trying to get somebody to do, you're trying to get them to change behavior. And typically people's barriers to behavior change have very little to do with their time, money, or schedule. It has a lot to do with their emotions. So that
makes sense.
People buy things for emotional reasons. They spend with their emotions, not with their logic. They may come up with a logical reason why they bought something later, but in the moment they're dealing more with, I want to feel like, it comes down to what we talk about with Kai. I want everybody we've ever trained, everybody we've ever worked with, this thing is true about them. They wish they were the kind of person who does X, Y, and Z. Wish I was the kind of person who gets to the gym on time, who eats better, and who has energy at the end of the day to play with my kids. But I hate that I'm the kind of person who sleeps in, continues to eat fast food, and still feels exhausted every day. It all comes down to I wish I did these things, and I hate that I do these things. We're just offering you some help on the journey of getting from this part to this part in your life. And we do that via text message because I've been astounded how many people prefer that mode of communication over a phone call, over an in-person meeting, or over email, certainly. People would just rather be texted, and people are incredibly communicative and vulnerable via text message.
That's kind of interesting, isn't it? I think we were talking to before where I asked, is this an app or is it actually text messaging?
Yeah.
And I think, I used to build everyone's product. So I was building everyone's, platform. And I think I knew this was going to be a 5-year thing. And you'd mentioned some interesting stats. One was, well, not stats, but facts. Yeah. One is I think we're both in agreement that we're at peak app, where it's like, I just don't want to see another app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the most personal app that I already have, though, if you can work within one of those, it might be my Facebook Messenger or my text message.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, text messaging, I think 97% of U.S. adults texted in the last week. Like
97?
Yes.
What?
Yes, because the reality is even people who don't love text messaging, someone in their life who they do love does.
Wow.
Um,
And the open rate is like 100%, right?
Yeah, I mean, the response rate is ridiculous on text messaging. It's just a really great medium. It also afforded us, as we thought about how do we bring coaching, more, great coaching to more people, it afforded us some easy wins in that, like, some people prefer rapid response to text message. But the general idea is I have an ongoing conversation with you. It lives in a thread. And we have a conversation that lasts weeks. Like my text conversations aren't usually up and down in 5 minutes. There's sort of these ongoing threads I keep with people. And if Kai gets to live alongside your wife, your kid, that guy from work, that friend from college, that guy you get drinks with, like, that's a win for us.
That's
if we live in the same space that the rest of your meaningful relationships do, that's way better than living in an app which we're sort of trained to ignore. Like, I have no notifications on my phone unless it's for a text.
I'm the same. Silence. Silence, no buzzing and silence. And no pop-ups, right? Like, no notifications. So
the rule I often hear is you should only get a push notification if someone is trying to get a hold of you.
Like desperation, like an Amber Alert.
Yeah,
I will accept an Amber Alert.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. What were you doing before you started Kai?
Yeah, I have a bit of an interesting journey and background. So I went to school in Nashville at Vanderbilt, and after that, I ended up, for a brief hot second, it was really hard to find a job when I left school. Also, I didn't know how to find a job. No one had ever taught me that.
I still don't know.
I know, right? So I ended up working in an Apple store, just like the one in the mall.
Sure.
The Apple store, and it was a really great experience. It was like the first thing I'd ever felt really good at.
That's
because
cool.
It wasn't sales, but it was sales. It was still listening and thinking and saying, well, I hear what you're saying. It sounds like you need this. It was this awesome process that really, when I look back on it, was coaching. I'm trying to coach you towards the right solution for you. And I'm not incented to sell you the most expensive thing, so I actually just get to give you what you want.
Interesting.
After that, I landed an internship at a small qualitative market research firm that tripled in size while I was there, which meant I got to do a little bit of everything inside of the company, which I realized I really enjoyed. I tend to die a little when my job gets very predictable.
Oh, yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. So I got to do a little bit of everything. I did some IT, some HR, some finance work. I got to do a lot of like training and development for the staff, and I got to also do a lot of market research.
Interesting.
And talk to a lot of consumers. And I thought that was going to be where I just lived for the rest of my career. It was a great company. And then I got, recruited, collared, I don't know what you want to call it, but I ended up working for the church I was going to.
Oh, what? Wait a second. Okay.
Yeah, really bizarre. So there's a church in Cincinnati called Crossroads.
Okay.
It's a big church. The weekend attendance there is about 38,000 people.
Jesus Lord. No,
exactly.
No pun intended, but
yeah, right? No, that was timely.
Okay, that's 38,000 people in one church? This is like one of those mega churches I've heard about?
10, 11 locations, plus a streaming audience, plus the whole thing.
Dang.
They're great. Actually, it was a really formative and amazing time for me. They're an incredibly efficient and effective nonprofit, in addition to being, a place where people go on the weekend to hear a message. And the reason I was hired in there is I had a relationship with one of the guys who was on kind of their team devising new experiences and new ways to do what the church did. And they realized this really interesting problem. They had people all over the country who wanted to be a part of Crossroads, but the cost of building a building is huge.
Right.
The cost of, it's something like $10,000 per seat. By the time that you have an auditorium with the right things to make the Crossroads experience, plus like somewhere for your kids to go, plus like the facilities, plus the offices, everything. By the time I have a seat ready for you, I've spent $10,000 to put it there. And they're like, we can't grow a church this way.
Yeah, that's tough.
We can't do it. It's not possible.
Right.
So they said there's got to be someone to deliver some aspect of the Crossroads physical experience digitally. You got to see where I'm going.
For sure, yeah.
2.5 years trying to translate physical experiences into digital experiences. one of the experiments we tried was there's this thing they do at the end of service. If you're a churchy person, like prayer, like you ask people to pray for you. I'm having a tough time, pray for you. In the building, that's easy. Stay in your seat. Someone will come, volunteer will come and pray for you. If you're in your living room in Albuquerque,
Tricky.
You just feel more alone at the end of service. So we just put a phone number up.
Okay.
Hey, if you have a question or want to know more, want to say hi, want us to pray for you, have a question, whatever, text me. And we were astounded how people text in. It was a Google. I was using Google Voice. It was just literally just a Google, and I had like 80 windows open. It was just this I wonder what will. It's like every.
That's interesting.
Experiment. I wonder what will happen if I just let people text us. More interesting as well. We almost never gave out our names. They were just talking to Crossroads.
Really interesting. So it was like it was like help at scale, which is what you're describing. So it was kind of like an aha for you that this was the pathway to give people help.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I had a fitness journey that was important to my life. I got into the fitness world, realized it's kind of there's some broken elements of the fitness industry, some bad business models that don't lead to customer success. They lead to corporation success. And I thought, well, that's where I want to try to. That's where I'm going to try to jump in and try to fix something. And so I had begun coaching my friends who had seen my transformation and thought, I want to be a part of that. I want that for me too. And it started as like, well, I'll just take you to the gym with me. Then it became like, well, also I forgot to tell you, so I'll text you. You should have some protein after this, which then became like ongoing threaded conversations about like, well, I thought about this, but like my wife and I are going to that restaurant tonight. Like, what should I do? How do I be healthy and go on a date? And that kind of stuff, and which eventually became I was just coaching people entirely via text message, and I never saw them.
Wow, that's really interesting. Your way to text was really from your phone, probably.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
From a business point of view, I don't know how scalable that is unless you have like banks and banks of people's phones.
No, it's not scalable at all. Is the answer? It doesn't work.
So on your side, are you building like technology where or you're using a service like Easy Text or Twilio or anything like that where you're building an interface, or it's like Command Central that allows two-way messaging, or? That's
really good. Command Central is actually how we talk about it internally. We have software. Yeah, we have a software that we call Change Agent, which is just a funny term for us to bat back and forth.
Okay.
But again, coming from a research background, my first instinct is I wonder how many questions I can get answered. First question: do people want to be coached via text message at all? So it didn't make any sense to build our own technology to answer that question when I could use somebody else's. So we used an application called Front App. They're like a sister company, friendly company to Intercom.
Oh, okay.
Intercom is that little chat bubble that comes up on your website. Yep. Front is like a shared inboxing system that happens if you toss in a Twilio API key. You can actually do shared inboxing for text messaging, and it will Twilio will facilitate the sending and receiving of text messages into the Front interface. We did a 30-person, 50-day pilot.
Okay.
Hey, if you agree to participate and give me your feedback and sit for an interview at the beginning and the end and be available, I will coach you via text message for your fitness goal. The pilot had great results, 60% retention. About 30% of the people asked to pay for it at the end. Like, it was a great pilot.
That's awesome.
But probably the most important thing we learned was the technology sucked.
Oh, so the delivery part, you mean, like to manage all.
Yeah, for what we were trying to do, we were just tripping over the software constantly because that software is actually built to make you go away. Customer support software is meant to end my interaction with you as efficiently and quickly as possible.
Okay, that makes sense.
What I'm trying to do is maintain an ongoing relationship with you,
right?
Which means I need to be able to remember things about you that a friend would remember.
So you need a CRM element almost, like where you can collect data over time and then reference it.
So without being able to show it in this chat window, essentially it's going to look like a text thread.
Okay.
With a queue of text threads on the side.
Oh.
That says who do you talk to next? Who's the highest priority right now? Who needs to hear from you today versus who can hear from you tomorrow? Who has a question versus who is just fine, leave them alone. And then the other part of our UI is dedicated to what we're calling annotations. Annotation is my ability to look through a text thread and highlight important information that's worth remembering and tie it to your user record. So I will, as you communicate with me, I will see he has given me his name, his wife's name, the fact that he has a husky, the fact that he works, the fact that he has a podcast, and the fact that he hates going to the gym, but he's done homework before and liked them. it's this unstructured information. I did a Salesforce implementation in a past life, and like for that, I have to tell them what all the fields are going to be.
Right. That's what I do.
Like, yeah, well, it's like, I'm not the technical guy on our team. I have a CTO, but he was educating me yesterday about key value pairs, and which is essentially field and description.
Right.
And the problem with our key value pairs is like I'm going to have probably 500 different keys, because okay, make a list of everything you can know about a person that's important to you. There's a lot.
Right. Tons. Lots of little facts. Right.
So I'm actually trying to build. It's inefficient for a human on my team to have to read back through an entire text thread just to ascertain what's the best thing to tell you right now. What's going to keep you moving, even though you hit this obstacle. It's much easier to look through a log of important information that's been pulled from the text thread that's linked back to the context in the text thread.
So if I understand, so just to back up a couple of things. Yeah. One, for people that don't know, we were talking about basically a software interface that you at Command Central, which is at Kai, you have this interface that's probably desktop based. I imagine. I don't know if it's mobile.
It's based in Chrome, so like it's a Chrome app.
Okay, so Chrome browser. Yeah. And the idea is that a bunch of trainers can interact with individuals out there who are communicating back on phones. So it's like it's one-to-many relationship software that you've built this.
Yeah.
After using someone else's software.
We used someone else's and realized what didn't work about it, and now we're trying to build our own.
Makes sense.
We have about 2-year backlog of dev work, like you always do, looking at, and but it's functional. I mean, we have paying users, we have people who are paying us to coach them via text message, and the software helps. It makes it easier. And
then we reference something called Twilio, which is like an API for SMS, text, and voice type interactions between some software and everybody in the entire world with phones.
Yeah. So basically. For the technical people out in your world, we are. I think we're built in the front end is built in Angular. And I'm gonna get so many. My CTO is gonna punch me right in the face.
Nobody's gonna care.
You don't understand.
Nobody's gonna care.
Front end's built in Angular. Twilio is the API that sends and receives text messages for us. We don't use their voice API. Yeah. And everything is stored in Firebase or a series of Firebase
which is
products.
It's a scalable database as a service. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I have the great fortune of having a CTO who spent 14 years in development, and his last job was as a software architect. So like he's able to build something that will scale.
And that's what you want. You want a guy like that on your team. You need a technical co-founder, so that makes total sense. And then again, your focus is upon coaching relationships around fitness.
Yeah.
So the idea is it that I'm being paired up with Kai or a specific person?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one of the things we get asked the most. So when you text Kai, your coach is now Kai. Kai is who you're talking to.
So the persona is Kai is the coach.
Yeah, and Kai has some fixed elements of personality, but Kai also adapts their language to your language and adapts their communication style to yours. Kai is behind the scenes. It's a combination of human and machine. I don't think the future of AI is in how it replaces humans. I think the future of AI is how it empowers humans. And so I'm building tools that use things like natural language processing, machine learning approaches to predictive, being able to say the right thing to say to him right now is this, predictive sort of tools to empower a human coach. It's worth mentioning that you mentioned like personal trainers before. Like, I don't have personal trainers on my team.
You don't?
No.
So you're saying that the knowledge about fitness and health and that sort of thing is coming from Kai?
Yeah, it's the example I would use is like if you had a friend who had a PhD in podcasting and you got to spend an hour with them, you would not touch their depth of knowledge and experience on their given expertise.
Right.
We have this model in our head where we feel like experts are the best coaches. But that's not actually true. Coaches are the best coaches. They have to have enough authority and knowledge to help you. But they don't actually have to be the expert. They just have to know more than you and be able to help you. So we have, behind the scenes, a whole litany of trainers, nutritionists, dietitians, like people experts in yoga or running or whatever you might need us to help you with. But the day-to-day human interacting with you is actually just trying to be a good human.
Oh. Okay, so you're saying the power of the coach, I mean, there's the expertise aspect, but then there's the motivation part or the encouragement part. And you referred to it as empathy, I think, before, which makes sense.
We talk about, that's actually a good segue. We talk about there's a great book written by a guy named Donald Miller called Story Brand. It's a hero's journey approach to marketing. And it's one of the clearest, most helpful guides to like how to explain what you do to someone in a way that they will buy it I've ever read. It's incredible.
I'm suspicious that Russell Brunson's read this.
Yeah, perhaps maybe
because he references the hero's journey story, right? And if you look at his methodology, so I'm wondering if I know he picks from different sources.
Yeah.
So
well, this guy, Donald Miller, this guy was an author. He wrote a couple of books. They got some press, but like I don't know if you've ever witnessed like a born consultant. Like someone who like, oh, you were made to consult. I can see this in the way you interact with people. Like he did a session at a company I was at, and it was just astronomical. It's a whole other topic, but he really talks heavily about the role of the guide in the hero's journey. This is the Obi-Wan Kenobi character, the Yoda character, the Miyagi character. And he really talks about the role of that person. He said a guide, as a brand, you should always position yourself as the guide to the hero, not as the hero. A lot of brands position themselves as the hero. Look at us. A lot of Instagram fitness models say, look how hard I work. Doesn't that inspire you? No, it doesn't. Instead of saying, I want you to reach your goal, I am here to help you do that. And the two things a guide must have are empathy and authority.
That makes a lot of sense.
Empathy only is like, oh, I love talking to you. Also, I would like to make some progress in my life. Authority only is, I love that you know things, but I don't feel like you give a shit about me.
So what you're saying is that, again, the expertise is secondary. You can provide a level of expertise in an almost automated, scalable fashion through the back-end platform of Kai so that you could plug in people that are really just empathetic and direct people to take the next step.
If you were to read a thread from one of Kai's paying users, like Kai's $49 a month.
Okay.
Which is a quarter of the cost of personal training in person. If you were to read through someone who's paying us, paying Kai, you would see something that looked a lot less like fitness coaching and a lot more like life coaching.
Interesting.
Because how do you disconnect your fitness journey from the rest of your life? How do I talk about something that involves your time, your energy, your motivation, your willpower, and your diet from your wife and your kids and your house and your job? Like how do I the idea that there's this fitness domain you go to is really a myth. Like any time you're trying to change yourself, it's going to impact your entire life. So we do a lot more listening to what really their barriers are and what's actually getting in the way than we do shipping them workouts, which of course we'll do.
Sure.
Absolutely. We'll of course give you some dietary advice. I mean, like, we're not doctors, we're very clear about that. But we'll of course give you some dietary guidelines. But it usually comes down to, no, your wife is making cheese, chicken, and rice casserole.
Don't eat it.
Or how about just have 2.5 cups of it? That's about 500 calories. I think that will be fine. You should feel good about that choice.
So it's really interesting because like I'm no fitness coach. I mean, it's funny. I am a coach actually in hockey.
Oh, okay.
So I'm used to like having 15 or 20 athletes, whatever age they are, and you're corralling the cats and you're trying to eliminate excuses. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to understand, like, some people are on their path and you just keep encouraging them. There's momentum there. And then there's other people that create emotional and mental barriers to what you want them to do or what they need to do to contribute, right? Yeah. And there's different approaches to that. Usually bad coaching is demanding, right? Yeah. Or excluding, where you like shut them down and they're cut out of the team. Yeah. And then you always if you want to, my experience has been you want to get the most out of everybody, especially in a sport like hockey, for example, where it's a team game, right? So I've got to try to eliminate as many excuses as I can in the course of time, right?
I went, so like you've hit on something that drives me insane, but it's so true. we don't expect our pitching coaches to be great pitchers or better than the pitchers they're coaching. We don't expect our quarterback coaches to be better than the quarterbacks at throwing the ball and reading the field. We don't expect our Olympic athletes coaches to be better athletes than the athletes. Only in fitness do we expect that a ripped person can help me get ripped.
I mean, there's a certain amount of like leading by example. Like if I'm a person that is gluttonous or if I'm lazy or I make excuses as a coach and I hold myself to a different standard than you, then there's obviously a problem. There's a disconnect and that authority is lost, right?
Totally. But it doesn't require, I think that it's not that we don't want our guides and coaches to have authority. It's that we shouldn't mistake their physique for authority. We shouldn't mistake their Instagram following as their ability to empathize and care about you. We shouldn't mistake their ability to get ripped themselves and punish themselves with their ability to guide you through a very difficult process and a very fraught journey in your life. And that's, I actually, while you were talking, I pulled up my research summary. So like this entire journey began with 30 90-minute ethnographic interviews with these guys I was going to coach. Lots and lots and lots of time. And one of the questions we asked them, in addition to learning about their life and their families and all these kind of things, was we asked them to describe to us a personal trainer, describe to me a bodybuilder, describe to me a guy in a Zumba class, describe to me the guy on the elliptical when you walk in the gym. And I'm going to read to you just a little bit of the personal trainer description. Meathead, in it for money, just doing this because they're fit. Not really interested in me or my goals. Their whole life is working out. They're already at the gym. Why not wear an LA Fitness shirt and be my coach, Has unrealistic expectations of me, aren't flexible when it comes to my life. And these are verbatims from the people I interviewed before we started this company. I don't need a personal trainer. I need a coach, some accountability. I need someone who lives in reality. I don't want anyone else to make me feel bad about myself. I already feel bad about myself.
That's really interesting. So, people are relating their personal attempts in the past to have trainers, it sounds like. But you've almost got like your entire story there of, this is the before and after, right? The epiphany is this is what it shouldn't be and this is what it's not. So it's like you're smashing this belief and you probably have to smash that belief in order to get clients.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like though this, not having the randomness of various trainer personalities and just having the ideal trainer of being Kai.
Exactly. The three issues we talk about in traditional coaching, even beyond fitness coaching, are the really high cost, $300 a month minimum for a good one. Some of them are like 70, 80, 90 bucks an hour to interact with them. And they're not even getting all that money. The facility's getting some of that money.
Right, most of it. I think if you look at some of the expose stuff in these gyms, it's like these guys are making like $8, $9 an hour if they're lucky, sometimes less, right? It's kind of terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's like slavery.
And we'll see if I remember the third one. I know that one of them was quality. It's just because the demand for coaching actually is pretty high, even at the current really high prices. People seek out coaches. They seek out trainers. Because the demand is what it is, and the individual coach can take 30 to 40 clients, depending on the model they're coaching in, like there have to be a lot of individual coaches. And this industry is almost entirely unregulated. Like holistic.
Oh my God. Well, there's some certifications out there in fitness, but it's funny, even coaching in general, as a hockey coach, I'll relate back to my many, many years of experience. I have to go through crazy certifications.
Yeah.
It's the only sport where I've seen that. Like,
really?
And some of it is born out of, I come from Canada, so Hockey Canada is very, very, like probably the best organization I've ever seen for coaches, and it's very systematic, and the material is like really, really in depth, right?
Yeah.
And then I come to the USA, and there is certification, but it's like not the same. But then I go and I see my daughter, who is a softball player in college.
Yeah.
Her coaches never had one certification.
Right.
I don't think they had one background check. I don't think they had one training on harassment and abuse.
It's remarkable. And even beyond, the markets we look at are like the really close markets are business coaching or like executive coaching.
Right.
Much higher price. But again, I mean, like you look at their LinkedIn, and you're like, yeah, you can coach me. Or life coaching, which is even less definable and strange, and yet there's increasing demand for it. There's this new thing called a health and wellness coach, which is somewhere in the middle between like a fitness coach and a life coach. And then, like financial advising, where, now suddenly you're getting into, in order to be able to do transactions, I have to have certain authority and ability. But like, there's very little coaching certification. I'll tell you, I could have made a lot of investors and people I talked to early in this process, especially in the Midwest, very happy if I had just gone and gotten a personal training certification. It would have answered one of their questions and gotten the complaints. I refuse to do it. Thus far, I refuse to do it. And here's why. I've been going to the same LA Fitness in near where I live here in Cincinnati for 5 years. And every other week, I see a poster up on the wall of the locker room that tells me how I can get certified as a personal trainer for $179 in 4 hours of my time. That's all it takes. Now, it's going to be a bargain basement certification, but I can still say I'm a certified personal trainer and no one can tell me I'm not. It's
the mixed certification, but
like it's remarkably easy to become certified in these places.
So I think it's interesting. So what you're able to, again, deal with the variability and the lack of actual credentials for various trainers by having a single persona with Kai, and then
represents the combined credentials of everybody. And everybody in my
You've actually got a litany of experts behind it. And I think what people probably, to connect the dots, it's like your software, if I'm plugged in as one of the people that's not a trainer but delivering, empathy and direction through the Kai interface, the persona of Kai and the expertise of all those experts are being delivered because the software is giving them guidance and decision support, really. And that's kind of like the element that over time you're going to build out with AI, and it sounds like, as opposed to an automatic personality, an automatic response to many people.
What I find myself saying a lot is like, listen, in the future, I believe everyone has a coach. Because everyone has goals. They all need better versions of themselves. So in the future, everyone has a coach helping them do that. That coach is neither fully human nor fully machine. That coach is a combination. Because that's the only way you can give coaching to more people and make it cost effective.
That makes sense. So where do you see this going? Is it always going to be a fitness-based product, or do you envision that it'll scale up in that one vertical and then you'll address some of these other verticals in the coaching space?
We have had conversations in corporate wellness. We have had conversations. I just had one this morning in financial advising. Similar problem. I can only talk to the top 20% of my clients because I can only generate revenue from the top 20%. We have talked about life coaching, wellness coaching, which is its own sort of weird thing. We've talked about coaching for parents. Parenting is very hard. Like some parents would just like to know I could text someone who could at least commiserate and then give me something to go do next. Like not everybody has an amazing relationship with their own parents, which is the traditional support structure for parenting.
Right.
You call your parents and say, what do I do?
You're saying parenting by text message is the future. And Kai is your future daddy?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Daddy Kai.
We talked about academic advising. We were teaching a course on health and technology at Miami University, which is close by here. And we asked about academic advising and like, oh yeah, everybody hates it. The professors hate doing it. The kids hate engaging with it because it's an old antiquated system and nobody wants to answer the emails.
The guidance counselor.
Yeah, I mean, or a career coaching. Like
career
even
coaching.
At Vanderbilt, which is a great, great school, there was not a lot of support for helped me find a job, which has really helped me engage in the.
They don't care about that.
No, they don't.
That's
really what I was
there's a
asking
disconnect there in general. But so is your vision then that this is a software company, or is it a service, or both? Is it still going to be a hybrid? Like, are you going to take that software and provide it to me so that I can offer a coaching business of my own, or what do you see this as?
I'll start with, we are a technology company, and even in the midst of there are people on my team coaching people right now, using our software to try it out. We are absolutely providing coaching. We are first and foremost a technology company. I'm trying to solve a problem we see in the marketplace, which is the unavailability of good coaching. The only way I know how to solve that is with technology. So that's the first thing. Second, I would say, from here, I think, well, here's the deal with giving you the tools so that you can coach people. One, from a philosophical standpoint, I believe that the purpose of technology is to extend humanity, augment humanity, make humans better. The first time I picked up a club, it was to extend our power and reach. The phone I have in my hand doesn't replace me.
Right.
It enhances my ability to get information and communicate with others.
Makes sense.
And play Candy Crush. So I want to be careful who I give power to.
Okay.
I've interacted with lots of coaches who would absolutely buy my product, whose coaching I don't think I want to empower.
Got it.
Right?
So it'll remain the persona of Kai
for a while. I think that even if I were to disabuse myself of that philosophical, or find coaches I really wanted to empower, the reality is I have a bad value proposition for a personal trainer right now. Hey,
right.
Even a good one. You know how you love going to the gym, meeting with clients, hanging out with them, hearing about their day.
Forget all that.
Quit that job. How about you text them all day? Like, I don't actually.
They might do it. They might already be doing it, but
when I talked to a guy who owns a financial advisory firm this morning, his dream, the reason he's interested in engaging, is because he loves the idea that he could be providing value to the people who rely on him even while he sleeps.
Makes sense.
That's my value proposition to a coach, is I can actually teach Kai, this human and machine, bless you, I can teach Kai how to be you and to coach the way you coach.
So the machine learning aspect is you can shape the personality or persona of Kai based upon what patterns you're pulling out or understanding through interview or. Yeah.
Oh, there's a tool. I don't know if you've used it before. It's called Crystalnose.
No.
It's called Crystal. Crystalnose.com, crystalnose.me, one of those two. It will predict your disc profile based on your LinkedIn profile, and it will correct my emails when I email you and tell me things like to use an emoticon or not to, or to be more direct, or to write a shorter email.
Because you're saying to reach out to me and how. Yeah. That's interesting because we've talked with Conversica, for example. Okay. I don't know if you've met with them before, but they have an AI approach basically to when you have stuff that goes into your funnel, for example, if you're in sales, as a lead, which is a marketing qualified lead and then needs to become a sales qualified lead, the biggest gap is converting that, right? So to a demo, to an appointment. And like X.AI, it sits there and it adjusts its language to craft emails to immediately respond, follow up, try different times. And that's what you're describing with Crystalnose, which is it'll also adjust the language based upon the industry and the person and the persona who they're reaching out to. So it's kind of scary but interesting. But
their API is out of our reach given financially currently. But we're dying to use it because for basically one feature, Crystal, you can, if it doesn't have a profile on you, I can feed it I think 200 characters or 200 words of your communication.
Interesting.
Email, and it will try to guess your disc profile and therefore give me some guidance on how to communicate with you.
Wow, that's crazy. Then that sounds like very much like Conversica, where it's like it has this Oxford dictionary type language and then this slang language depending on who it's communicating with. So
absolutely,
really interesting.
So this is one of the most valuable things Crystal does when I'll type it, because it has a Gmail plugin. When I type the email, it says, be direct. Or it says, remember, use humor.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Yeah,
remember, be friendly.
So it's coaching you on how to respond or how to send a message. I might need that.
It's you can I have an account with them for the Gmail plugin. But you can, I think, go look up your own profile, look up a profile for free.
Damn, really?
They're eerily accurate because it's based on a disc profile of you, which is a fairly robust.
Oh, when you say disc, you're saying DISC, which is like a personality profile.
What they're guessing a personality profile based on the method in which you communicate.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Yeah. That won't scare a single person.
No. It's really, I found it extremely valuable. Really, all it's enabling me to do is to communicate the way you want to be communicated to.
Right. Which is...
It's like the a big thing in like the 5 love languages, like that, that, stuff for like married couples or couples. It's essentially saying like, hey, just so you know, left to my own devices, I'm going to communicate the way that I think everyone should communicate.
Right.
But I may not communicate in the way that you like to be communicated to. And there's Kai's actual coaching is based on something called situational leadership theory.
Okay.
Which essentially means the role of the leader is to adapt to the stage of growth of the student.
Interesting.
It has nothing to do with who I am or where I'm coming from. My skill as a coach is my ability to adapt my communication and style to where you are and who you are.
That validates an idea that I have always had, so that's interesting.
Cool.
Situation. I never realized that was.
Do I just like invoice you for that, or like how does that work when I
$49 a month? Well, listen, I want to be really conscious of your time, Jonathan. I could keep going on. This is like it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
It sounds like from a user point of view, it's much simpler, which is I have a coach, they're encouraging me, they're pushing me to new levels. From the back end, it's really interesting to kind of open up the, behind the curtain and see what's behind the wizard, so to speak. To understand your approach to delivering a really great experience to those people that are being coached. So I want to wrap up with 3 quick things because we spent quite a bit of time on this. But one is, is there anything that we haven't covered that you want to cover, and how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I mean, we covered a lot. I think that was great. If you haven't noticed, I could probably talk about this for a long time.
And understand is really interesting.
In terms of how to get a hold of us, I mean, the number one, you can get a hold of me at just the letter J at Kai.coach. Our URL is Kai.coach.
And it's KAI?
KAI.coach.
.coach, okay.
And I think you can find me on our website, so you can find me on LinkedIn. The number one thing we're looking for right now is like Kai gets better every day as long as we have new people to interact with.
Okay.
Kai is $49 a month, but anybody who shows up with like a referral code, so they could say that you sent them, or you can decide what that code is, they'll get their first month for $25. So
can we create something for people that watch this?
Yeah, absolutely do it. So
okay,
it's really
we'll put it in the
easy.
show notes, like automate grow or something.
Yeah. It's real simple. Keep in mind, there's humans behind this, so like you don't have to like guess the right string of characters to say. Like we can help you figure it out. But yeah, I mean, we are in user acquisition mode. I mean, like we think we've got a great product that people need. I think we're ready. We're ready for that rapid influx of people looking for coaching. Yeah.
And I'm really interested in this space, particularly from the traffic conversion mode, because I've been dealing with a lot with that with myself. So I'm finding those conversations are really kind of interesting. So I'm sure maybe we can have you back and we can talk about your experience of how you're targeting, how you're attracting and converting people, because I'm starting to get into that, and I've always been terrible at that sort of thing. So for me, it's really interesting.
I will pitch you the next podcast with me. Can't believe I didn't bring it up. Our call to action is just text us, or sometimes like give me your number.
Okay.
We do our entire sales process via text message.
Wow. Okay.
There is no form to fill out. Like your initial interaction with us is text, so we actually get to know you, listen, ascertain. Do this. It sounds like you're looking for this. We do like the reflecting back, and the positioning of price, and the objection handling, all via text message.
So the initial interaction is I find you on a Facebook ad and I text you?
Yeah, that's it.
Very cool. Yeah, we definitely have to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm interested to share more about it. And I can give examples. I can show you, we can talk about through like our script and our snippets, like our pre-existing text messages that we have built, and like training to help somebody who's not me navigate someone's fitness journey and get them to share more and try to get down to
before they ever sign up.
Before they ever sign up.
Which is smart. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I don't want to give you a price until I tell you what you're going to get.
And then,
so
what do you think? This is a totally different topic. So I think we schedule some more time because there's so many questions there that I want to ask. And I'm really interested in voice in particular, which is the renaissance of voice, but through different channels, right? Which is like voice search, Alexa, maybe less so Siri, but I'm sure that's still a relevant channel. But all right, so I'm going to wrap with 2 final things. One is, how are you, Jonathan, and Kai changing the world?
Kai is changing the world by giving everyone access to a coach, a guide, who takes an active daily role in their journey towards change.
I love it. Great answer.
Okay.
The final thing I'll wrap up on, and this is how you got on the show, which is when we interview someone that's interesting, we want to be referred to and introduced to other people that are interesting.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to refer us and introduce us to someone that you think would be a great guest on the Automate and Grow podcast.
Yeah.
And it can't be Dennis Mortensen and it can't be Rye because we already talked to both of those guys.
So many good ones.
Sorry.
I'm going to think about that.
Okay.
I'm going to think about that one. I may send you a few names.
You don't have one off the top of your head?
Let me give you a sec. You can edit all this out. So just pretend like I thought of it immediately.
Okay.
Let's see.
Usually the first thought in your head is the best.
I know. Well, I'll pitch this to you. So, like, Rye's co-founder, Tim.
Okay.
It's not Rye. It's got to be Tim Brown. Tim comes from my world, church world, very involved. He helped start the accelerator I'm currently sitting in.
Oh, very cool.
Which was spun out of the church I worked for. This is
Oh my goodness, really?
So this is a faith-based accelerator. So like Tim started this accelerator. He started a couple of companies, a couple of startups. And you're going to get the astronomer story, but you're going to get a totally different astronomer story. You're going to get from the standpoint of someone who's an eternal optimist and just likes making new things. I think he moved to Cincinnati from California and has just made this home, which is a rare story. You'll get why the Midwest. You'll get, if you want it, faith in entrepreneurship, how to close a round of funding without losing your soul.
Wow. Okay.
Why they stay so involved in so many aspects of the startup community here.
Very interesting.
My pitch for him is you'll get I don't know if you're a nerd like me, but Ender's Game versus Ender's Shadow. You're going to get the same story from a totally different viewpoint. That's the one off the top of my head.
Great. So we will take that recommendation. We look forward to that introduction. Yeah. Jonathan, we kind of gone over times, but I want to thank you for your time. And this has been another episode of Automate and Grow with Jonathan Smith from Kai.coach. And we will see everyone. This has been episode 26. I can't believe it in such a short amount of time, meeting so many cool people. But thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks.
This has been an episode of the Automate and Grow podcast. Check out other episodes for interesting topics on how to grow, innovate, and automate your business. Subscribe or like us on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, or on our website at www.automategrow.biz and get your copy of the book Automate and Grow at Amazon today.